that I'm good for forgetting to leave my gift audio on, and that's just part of the fun. Thank you, Box Boy. Thank you, Tina Cat. Thank you, Chaos Kitty. I got it taken care of now. You guys, welcome in. Today's date is March the 3rd. So welcome into March, everybody. This is our first show of the March month. Hi, Jade. Welcome in. Thank you for all of the gifts and love. And you guys, today is the first day of March. Now, I do believe there are some of you who do have some March birthdays. So if you do, let me know, especially if your pet has a March birthday as well. Jersey's got a birthday, okay? We will be happy to pick on you and let everybody know that it is your birthday. And we would be happy to share with everybody that it's your birthday. Maybe I'll write it all over myself, happy birthday, Jersey, or whatever. So tonight we have, as always, we have some trivia questions. We have a special guest, and we have Cat's Rar in the news. Now, if you did miss it was Cat's Rar's birthday last Friday night. So make sure you do stop by and tell her happy birthday as well. Thank you, Jersey. Hello, Kevin. And it is good to see everybody come in and see everybody this week. And don't forget, if you have a pet, whether it's a dog, a cat, a emu, a Sasquatch. I would really love to see a Sasquatch if you've got one. But any type of pet, basically, we would love to have be a special guest on the show. And the way you do that is by hitting up Emoji J or myself on Instagram and letting us know, or just letting me know here in the stream, so that I can get a picture and get you scheduled to be on the show. Thank you, Jersey. Thank you, Box Boy. Now, if you are new here, please make sure you favorite these amazing gifters up here in the corner. Jersey Nation, Box Boy, a Cutie Pie. Just go through the whole thing. Favorites are free. You're going to enjoy each one of their streams, and you will enjoy them. They are real people, and they are fantastic to people to know. And they like real people, too. So if you're a real person, they're going to love you as well. So tonight, we're going to do a little different thing. I'm going to give you a true or false, okay? It's kind of a true or false kind of night. And I'm going to give you a little things like with true and false with pet trivia tonight. So is it approximately, I'm going to give you two numbers, approximately 6.3 million companion animals enter into the United States animal shelters nationwide every year. True or false? True or false? Approximately 6.3 million companion animals enter the U.S. animal shelters nationwide every year. I see a little bit of true, maybe false. The United States only, by the way. This is only in the United States. I see a little bit. So the answer is true. It is true. Approximately 3.1 million of them are dogs, and approximately 3.2 million of them are cats. And they estimate the number of dogs and cats entering U.S. shelter systems annually has actually declined over the years, from about 7.2 million in 2011. And the biggest decline overall in the United States shelter system was actually in dogs, from 3.9 to 3.1 million. So it is in fact going down. Welcome in, everybody. Hello. Thank you for the gift, Irv. Thank you, Box Boy. Welcome in, everyone. Approximately 920,000 shelter animals each year are euthanized in the United States. Is this true or false? Approximately 920,000 shelter animals are euthanized in the United States each year. Is it true or false? Thank you, Jersey. Thank you, Box Boy. I see true. I see false. I see true. Okay. The answer, actually, believe it or not, is True. Each year in the United States, approximately 920,000 shelter animals are euthanized. 390,000 of them are dogs, and about 530,000 are cats. The number of dogs and cats are euthanized in you has actually declined from previous years. It used to be 2.6 million in 2011. So this decline, though, can be attributed by the percentages of animals that are being adopted and an increase in the number of stray animals successfully being returned to their owners that do get microchipped now as well. So it still has a lot to go. We can do a lot better, people, by making sure our pets, both dogs and our cats, are spayed or neutered correctly. And that number can even go further down. So let's hope that we do that. All right, so you're seeing a theme. You're saying, Kitty, I see a theme. Approximately 4.1 million shelter animals are adopted each year. Is this true or false? Is it 4.1 million shelter animals are adopted in the United States each year? True or false? That's a lot, 4.1 million. Do you think this is only in the United States? I didn't have a chance to get worldwide statistics, and it is true. You're right. Over 2 million dogs and over 2.1 million cats are adopted in the United States each year from the shelters. That is like your local ASPCA, your local humane societies. So you can see that they are doing a lot of good work when over 4 million pets are being adopted each and every year. So if you do have a local shelter, they're doing a lot of work. Now, I know that you probably, thank you for all the gifts. Thank you, Chaos Kitty. Thank you, everybody. Now, you probably have a local animal shelter. And if you do, I'm very happy that you do. You may have lost your pet and have had to call them for help to find it. You also, thank you, Storm. Oh, bonus leprechaun. You may have also have had to call them for help to find your pet if they escaped your house unintentionally, or maybe you didn't have their collar and they darted out the door, or maybe they ran off their leash somewhere. Any number of things could have happened. So about how many do you think each year enter shelters as strays, but actually get returned to their owners? Do you think that is it 810,000 or is it 1,810,000? How many pets do you think are returned back to their owners due to the local work of humane shelters, humane and animal shelters in your local areas? Do you think it's 1,810,000 or do you think it's just 810,000? I see a little bit of both. I see a little bit of both. The first one, the answer is 810,000. The 810,000 animals who do enter into animal shelters in the United States alone are strays that get picked up as strays, are returned back to their owners due to like microchipping and due for like just them being in their local area and somebody saying like, hey, my dog is missing and this is what I'm looking for. Her numbers are wrong. This is only in the United States. It's only the United States. This is according to the ASPCA. These numbers could be different depending on where you look. I did use the ASPCA for these numbers, and I'm sure that they can be. I'm sure they change, depending to where we look at for information. Oh, okay. I was like, it could be different depending on where we go. It is true, though. In America, there are about 340, hi, Diamond. There are about 340 million people who live in the United States. And, it's interesting because, when we think about how many people own pets, um, it's probably like we don't probably even realize exactly how many people own pets, but it's estimated that in the United States that there are 78 million dogs and 85.8 million cats that are owned in the United States. So there's 340 million people in the United States approximately, and about 78 million dogs and 85.8 million cats. So that's approximately 44% of households in the United States have a dog. Yep, 44% of households have a dog, and about 35% of households have a cat. So 3 out of 10 have a cat, 4 out of 10 basically have a dog. So yeah, that's more than kids. Yeah, that part. There's more pets than there are kids in America. Yeah. Isn't that wild? So dog gang. I know that like some of you have dogs and some of you have cats and some of you have guinea pigs, and I'm trying to find you if you have one to be on my show. Right, Cats Rar? And we want a Sasquatch. Yes. We want the coveted Sasquatch Award. So just a couple more things of information. Approximately 40% of dog owners and 46% of cat owners learned about their pet through word of mouth, which means this shows like Meow and Me, the internet, like through social media, and all of these kind of sources through a friend, like, oh, yeah, this is what I did with my pet when this happened. We learn about our pets from other people. And so that's also a very interesting statistic. So that was me sharing a little bit of different kind of flip on pet trivia tonight. I wanted to kind of give you more specific information about our cats and dogs in the United States. I was spending time in Bruce Wayne's stream earlier today, telling him all about these things because I was like, Teddy was there. If Teddy's around, I think I seen Teddy come through. And then Teddy and we were all talking about the importance of keeping our pets spayed and neutered. So you guys, if you're just coming into Meow and Me, welcome in. I don't know who took my point for, but I thank you for taking my point for. And if you're just coming in, welcome in. This is a featured pet show. Here is Storm. Thank you, Storm. This is a featured pet show here on the platform each week at Mondays at 9 p.m. We do have a special guest tonight, and her name is a cutie pie. So I'm bringing in a cutie pie now, just to let you know. Oh, Romeo, he's being so good.
For now.
For now, this is okay. So this is Romeo, right? A cutie pie.
Ah.
Okay, and tell us all why you named him Romeo.
So I named him Romeo because he has a heart-shaped spot on his shoulder. Well, it's kind of like it's like right here. It's a little distorted now because of the way that he's sitting, but he does have a heart-shaped spot.
Yeah, this is Romeo. And how old is Romeo?
So this year Romeo will be 13 years old.
Wow. Yeah, he is getting older, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Now, typically Romeo is not the kind of cat
Ow,
that
ow,
will
ow, I'm getting
allow-
attacked right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Romeo is not the kind of cat who will allow for too much cuddling.
Unless it's on his own terms.
Unless it's on his terms. Agreed. Some of you may have never heard the story about how a cutie pie got Romeo. Like some of you have never heard the story. And I never get tired of hearing the story. Hopefully a cutie pie doesn't ever get tired of telling it to me. But a cutie pie, can you tell us about the story about how Romeo came into your life?
Yeah, so So Romeo essentially picked me. Um, and the way that that came about was about 12 years ago, we had like a major snowstorm in Massachusetts, and it shut our town down for about like 3 days. And a few friends of mine, we all lived in like the same apartment building that, like, out here, they're houses with yards and things like that. And so we were outside building this enormous snow fort. And we were out there all day long, scooping snow, packing it into the sandcastle making containers, and building snow bricks, and having hot toddies, and just kind of like living our best adult lives and reliving our childhood. And at the end of the day, I was all tipsy and frozen toes and frozen fingers. I went into my apartment to take a hot bath and warm up. And shortly after I entered my apartment and, got rid of all of my wet clothes, there was like a knock on my door. And I'm like, who is knocking at my door in the middle of a snowstorm? So I opened the door, and my next door neighbor he was like, oh, there's a cat out here. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't understand why he was knocking on my door about it. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, it's snowing. And I said, yeah, well, he has a fur coat. And he goes, but he looks homeless. And I said, well, Michael, cats don't just fall from the sky. He's had to have come from somewhere. And I think that if we just leave him alone, he'll go home. And my neighbor, who doesn't really like people at all, really cares for animals. He even went so far as to feeding the bees and the wasps from our porch. And so he begged me, please, 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 a cutie pie, take this cat in just for the night. I'll print flyers and I'll knock on doors. It's so cold outside, and I can't stand to see him outside in the cold. Oh. And I said, Michael, why don't you just take him into your apartment? And he's like, oh, well, I can't, because and it's true, he had just adopted a cat from the shelter, and she was FIV positive, and he had to keep her quarantined for a little while. And so he was like, I can't bring this cat in because of, her name was Whistle Stop. It was the greatest name ever. And he's like, I can't because of Whistle Stop. And I was like, well, make me a litter box, give me some food, I'll give you 48 hours. And so that's how Romeo got through the threshold of my front door. Mm-hmm. And so that evening, I was just kind of skeptical. He kept looking at me with these big eyes, and he was so sweet, and I would pet him, and he gave the loudest purr. And then I picked him up, and then he wrapped his paws around my neck and nuzzled his head into the nook and just purred and purred and purred. And I said, you're not staying. And the reason why I said that he wasn't staying was about 9 months to a year prior to Romeo showing up on my doorstep, I had another cat. His name was Dylan. He was a tuxedo cat. He was polydactyls, which meant he had thumbs. And so I was still kind of getting over losing Dylan, because I had Dylan for like 20 years. So Dylan was like over 20 when he passed away. And so I was just like, I was done with the cat litter. I was done with the cat hair. It took me a whole year to get Dylan's fur out of everything. If anybody here has ever had a pet, how hair just gets everywhere. And so like I had finally eradicated the last of the cat hair from my apartment. And then here was this cat trying to move in on me. And I just kept saying, you're not staying. You're not staying. And so in that particular apartment, I didn't have a door for my bedroom. It was like an open concept. And so that evening, we'd set up the cat litter box. I'd given him a little bit of food that Michael had brought over. And then I was like, I'm going to bed. And so I crawled into bed, and I was playing with my cell phone, and up came Romeo right onto the bed. And I was like, excuse me, you generally have to buy me dinner first. And he decided that he was going to come up and he was going to sleep in the bed with me. Mm-hmm. Generally, cats or dogs tend to like to sleep near your feet or behind your knees, but not Romeo. He insisted. He crawled all the way up to my pillow. And then I wasn't really sure what he wanted from me, so I kind of lifted the covers up, and he had gone underneath the covers. He did that cat turn. If anybody knows about that cat turn, they do about 3 turns, one clockwise, 2 counterclockwise in order to get comfortable. And then he decided that he was going to spoon and put his head here and lay next to me. And there he slept for the whole night. So that morning I woke up with the light of day, and I noticed that, he had some gookiness in his ears and some gookiness on his eyes, and I was a little grossed out. I was like, "Oh, you dirty cat." And so like, you dirty cat. And so I tried to clean him up as best I could with a washcloth. I gave him a bath. I think that was like one of maybe only like of 3 times I've ever given this cat a bath, and he was so good. He didn't try to scratch me. He just did this like crying thing a little bit, but he was like so well behaved. He let me bathe him. He let me wash his face. He let me poke around in his ears. And then that's when I saw it. That was the heart-shaped spot as I was giving him a bath. And I thought, oh, this must be a sign from the universe, because there are 2 things that I like a lot. Those are skulls and hearts. And here was this cat with this heart shaped on him, and of course I was still like, you're not staying. You're not staying. And so that day I had to go to work. So I went to work, and my neighbor was texting me. He had sent me a picture of the flyer that he had created. He had told me about all the neighbors' doors that he had knocked on. And he was like, I still haven't found his owner. It's only been 24 hours. You promised to keep him for 48 hours. And I said, okay, well, you got 24 more hours before you have to find another home for this cat. Well, the 24 hours came and went. And you can fast forward. That was, I believe, in February, because I had then decided, fine, I'm going to take care of this cat until we could find its owners, or until I could find him a safe home. And so I made an appointment for him at the doctor's office. And that's when I was forced to come up with a name. I had been toying around with Casanova, with Cupid, with all like these different names because of his heart shape on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. And so I finally landed on Romeo. So I brought him into the vet. He had to get his ears washed out by the veterinarian. He had to get those little drops for ear mites. Yeah. He had some gastrointestinal issues. Like, I don't think that he had worms, but he had a really upset belly. Like, the next day when I had come home from work, he had diarrhea all over the apartment. I had to clean it up, so I had gotten him some special food. It's a prescription ID for his belly. And so he also needed to get vaccinated because they wouldn't treat him unless he was vaccinated. And because he had shown up on my doorstep, there was no proof of vaccination. So I had to just go ahead and get him vaccinated and everything. And then, so that was like in February. And, life with Romeo was pretty mellow those first couple of months. He was really young. He hadn't yet turned a year, but I didn't know that yet because he was so tall and so long that the vet had said, oh yeah, he's probably born sometime late summer. And so fast forward to May. we were all outside again, reliving our childhood, but this time for Cinco de Mayo. So we had margaritas, we had music playing, we were playing double dutch, we were hula hooping, and we were playing Chinese jump rope. Like, these are like all of my friends. We were in our 30s. We were all childless, but we were just having a great time out in the yard. And Romeo had come outside to join us. And then I could see, in front of our house was a U-shaped driveway, or horseshoe, or whatever you want to call it. And I could see some lady at the other end of the horseshoe, behind a fence. It wasn't a thick fence. It was kind of like a stockade fence or whatever. And she had a little girl with her, and they were calling Romeo over. Hey, kitty, kitty. Hey, kitty, kitty. And I just watched them for a while, but then finally they had gotten Romeo's attention. And so, he was weary, but he was kind of like, hey, what's going on over here? And they were like, kitty, 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 and so he started to go towards her, and I shouted across the yard, and I said, hey, just so that you know, that cat lives over here, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't lure it too far away from home. And the lady responds, that's my cat! In the biggest Karen voice that you could possibly imagine. And and so I looked at my best friend at the time. She was my downstairs neighbor. And I kind of, I guess you give the best friend look, like, here we go. So I got up from the stoop and I walked over there and to find out what was going on. And she's like, that's my cat. And I was like, well, I'm not denying that, this cat probably came from your house, but, he's been living with me since February. Right. And she was like, well, that's when he ran away. There was this giant snowstorm and he got out the house. And I said, well, okay, but it's kind of strange to me that this cat would brave the snowstorm to get out of your house. Usually, if anybody's ever seen any handful of cat videos, they see that it's snowing outside. The cat desperately wants to go outside. You open the door. The cat feels the snow and says, oh, yeah. Never mind. But this cat braved a blizzard to get out of her house. Right. And I was like still trying to be cordial and neighborly. And I still wasn't sold on keeping this cat. Right. So she says, well, that's my cat. And there was some exchange back and forth. And I said, well, that's well and fine that this may be your cat. And I said, however, I'm happy to give him back to you, except for the fact that, in the last few months, I've had to shell out quite a few expenses. Like he had ear mites. Yep, did you know that he had ear mites? That he had a sensitive belly, that he had to get vaccinated, and he had to get neutered. Like I said, if this was your cat, how come you hadn't been taking care of him? Right? Like, why did I have to take care of him when I found him? And then she said, well, the cat, the kids really miss their cat, da, 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 da. And I said, well, we can talk about you getting the cat back, but you'll definitely have to reimburse me for all of the medical care that I've paid for. I said, I'm a humane person and I love animals and I'm hugely responsible, but I'm not running a charity. I'm not going to spay and neuter and vaccinate everybody's cat in the neighborhood. Like, you're going to have to pay me back. And so she said, well, I'm going to go get my husband. Wait till I get my husband. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I'm not scared. Go get your husband, girl. Go get your husband. Right? So I go back to the yard. I go back to the yard. Romeo follows me back to the yard. We're going back to double dutch. We're hula hooping in the yard. We're having a good time. And then I see out the corner of my eye down the sidewalk comes this lady, her carriage. She's got two toddlers strapped in the carriage. She's got a slightly older toddler walking with her. And then here comes her husband in a dirty wife beater. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Who I got to talk to about the cat? And I was like, yo, dude, you need to chill. You're at my house now. And as far as I'm concerned, I've done you a favor by keeping this cat alive. So you need to show some motherfucking respect. Excuse my language, but that was verbatim what I said. And so he was like, my bad, my bad. He's like, let me talk to you about this cat. And he's like, this cat ran away. We've been looking for it. And I was like, well, you couldn't have been looking too far, because the day after the cat showed up at my doorstep, my neighbor had sprinkled the neighborhood with flyers, went knocking on doors. I said, I work at the bar, which is like, down the street.
Right.
Like, there were flyers in that bar. Like, I don't know how you couldn't have found this cat if you were really looking for him. And he said, well, he's like, it's about the kids. They cry about the cat. Whoop-de-whoop, whoop, 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 whoop. Long story short. I said, well, if it's a cat that you're looking for, I can get you a cat. They have free cats all over Facebook marketing. I'm happy to go get you a kitten.
Right.
I said, however, if you want this cat back, you're going to have to write me a check. Oh, well, how much is it going to cost? And da-da-da. And I said, well, I'm out here celebrating Cinco de Mayo with my friends, but the paperwork's upstairs. I'm sure it was easily $500 to $700 with everything included. Sure. Like, it's not cheap to take care of an animal. Yeah. And so he was like, oh, well, we're going to have to go talk about it. And I said, yeah, why don't you go home and talk about it? Bye-bye. And so they started to leave the yard. Well, the kids had toys that were making noise and flashing lights, and they were like, here, kitty, here, kitty, here, kitty. So Romeo kind of was like, dun, dun, dun. So he kind of followed them down the street because he had free range. And my best friend at the time said, your cat's following them. And I said, it's okay. He'll be back. Right. And so I was pretty confident he'll be back. The way that he was sleeping with me, the way that he was attached to me, I didn't think that he would have willingly gone back to those people's home. And so, 45 minutes had gone by, an hour had gone by, and I said, okay, I'm going to go look for my cat. And my best friend's like, I'm coming with you, right? Because she was always wanting to be front row to the drama. And she knew that if I was going to have to stand up to somebody, there was going to be some drama. And
she was giving you bail money is what she was getting ready for. Bail money. She
knew I was going to need a witness. And so we walked down the street, 2 driveways down. And I can see why my neighbor might have missed her apartment. It's because it was placed behind a bakery all the way in the back. So unless he had gone back down there, he wouldn't have known there was an apartment down there. And so I started walking down her driveway, and she was like on the phone, smoking a cigarette, and her kids were playing like around her feet or whatever. And she's on the phone, and she says, here comes a bad B-I-T-C-H now. She stole my effing cat, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nice way to talk around your kids. And she's like, mind your effing business, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so I'm just here for the cat. Like, we already talked about it. Like, if you want that cat back, you're going to have to give me some money. I am not giving you any money. That's my cat. Blah, 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 blah. I'm calling the cops. And I was like, here we go. Gotta call the cops on a brown person trying to do the right thing. But all right, you go ahead and call the cops. So Cinco de Mayo, cops pull up. They're like, what's going on? And I was like, apparently I'm the perp. And so it was a female police officer, and she's like, well, what's going on? And I said, well, we were all hanging out in our yard. This lady comes over, says that this cat's hers. I don't deny that the cat came for her house, but I've had the cat since February. I've been paying for all the bills. I told them that they could have the cat back, but they would have to reimburse me. And the officer says, yeah, that sounds super reasonable. And she's like, where's the cat now? And I said, I'm assuming this lady locked the cat in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, oh, well, that's a civil matter and you're going to have to take her to court. And I said, what do you mean it's a civil matter? And then she started to just explain to me the difference between criminal and civil cases. And I was like, no, I'm not asking you what you mean, like define it. I'm like, how are you categorizing this as a civil matter rather than a criminal matter? I'm like, isn't pet thieving a crime? Right? Like I was like, she's committing a crime. And she goes, well, with pet disputes, they consider it a civil matter and you'll have to wait till Monday to go to the courthouse and blah, 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 blah. And she gave me the name to the dog officer and everything. And then she went and talked to the lady. And so she comes back and she's like, yeah, so she corroborated your story, and because the cat's in her house, possession is 9/10 of the law, and you're gonna have to call the dog officer and talk to him on Monday, and then you can file your court case to get the cat back. And I said, well, how much does it cost to file a case in court? And she's like, probably like around, $300. And I'm thinking, that's half the money this lady owes me for the cat, so I'm gonna have to pay again, for this cat. This cat, I remind you, I didn't even want. And so anyway, so I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So I take the information to the dog officer. I go back to my yard. My friends hand me a big old margarita to dull the pain. And we go back to our Cinco de Mayo party. About 15 minutes later, I hear that lady and she's hollering, here, kitty, kitty, here, kitty, kitty. And I look to my best friend and she goes, do you think he got out? And I was like, oh yeah. If he ran away from that house one time, I guarantee he's running away from that house a second time. And so I could see her towards the back of her property, kind of like where the railroad tracks were. So I booked it to the back of my property to where the railroad tracks are. And I looked and I saw this little fluff of white in the tall grass. And I said, Romeo, and his head popped up and his ears popped up. And I said, come on, Romeo, come on. And so then he started leaping over the grass. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those like old 80s Stetson commercials where the horse is traveling through the wild grass, but here comes my cat just leaping, leaping, leaping. And he jumps into my arms and I scream, possession's 9/10 of the law, B. And I run upstairs and I shut Romeo into my apartment. And I didn't let him out again for a couple of weeks. And so she's screaming, I'm gonna call the cops. I'm like, you already called the cops. They said possession's 9/10 of the law. He came back to me. So he's my cat. So anyways, so that following Monday, I had gone into work and I was exchanging weekend stories with my coworkers, and I just happened to tell them about my weekend story with Romeo. And they had heard the story about how he had shown up at my place, how I didn't want a cat, how he was like love bombing me and making sure that I fell in love with him, and the great cuddles that I had gotten and everything. So I had told them all about what had happened. And they were like, well, isn't he microchipped? And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not paying that kind of money to get a cat microchipped, blah, 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 blah. I was like young then too. And then so when I was done telling the story, my boss had said, well, what would have prevented this whole situation? I was like, well, if he was microchipped, because then the cop would have said, is he microchipped? And I would have said yes. And then she would have said, the cat belongs to whomever it's registered to. Ooh. So my boss She grumbles something. She reaches into her desk. She pulls out a $50 bill. She slams the $50 bill on the desk and she goes, "You have tomorrow off and you're getting that cat microchipped." So I feel like my relationship with Romeo wasn't fully committed until he was microchipped. And so Romeo was microchipped. That following day, I took him to an SPCA clinic a few towns away. Like it was about 45 minutes away. But they happened to be doing free spay and neuter clinics. And then also they were running a $50 special on getting your pets microchipped. And so I had shown up and I had gotten him microchipped, and Romeo has been mine ever since.
And that, folks, is the story of a cutie pie and how she became a pet cat owner again. Now, and no, it is a really good story. It is. That's why I love listening. I never get tired of hearing the story. I really don't. If you're coming in, welcome into Meow and Me. Meow means make each one wanted. This is a featured pet show here on the platform. A Cutie Pie is a streamer here. We were talking about her cat, Romeo. Please go ahead and hit a Cutie Pie with a favorite if you've not favored her. Those are free. Favorites are free.
Start from the beginning.
That pretty much takes up all of our time with a cutie pie tonight. But you know what? It's a good story, DJ Joey.
You guys were all riveted, right?
And
I'll come back some other time, I'm sure, and I'll talk about Romeo's idiosyncrasies. As
we'll hear more about those fun parts because listen, Romeo is a sweetheart. We love hearing his story. And it's an important place that, like, not all cats choose you. I believe that. I think that cats do choose you. And I think that it was a clear choice for Romeo. Yes, it was thrilling. It is a thrilling. I never get tired of listening how Romeo came into a cutie pie's life. And that it's great. He clearly picked her, and he clearly picks her every night when he wants to be spooned. So anyways, make sure you guys favorite a cutie pie. If Cutie Pie, do you have anything going on before I let you out of the box?
The only thing I have going on is my birthday on March 20th. So I am the last of the March Pisces. And so, hey, Chocolate. And so, my birthday will be on Thursday, March 20th. I don't think that I'm doing anything necessarily special. I would love it if everybody just rolled through and said happy birthday to me when they see me streaming. Yes, it is Pisces gang, Mr. Moon. So, but I'm not doing any shows. I'm not doing any auctions. I'm just kind of out here, just floating around.
And that's okay. I love it. So March 20th is a cutie pie's birthday. Make sure you favor her and go say happy birthday. And then, blow a kiss to Romeo. Meow.
Yeah, it's going to be a special birthday. I'm going to turn 50 this year, everyone.
Oh, Steph. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll have to think about this a little bit more.
All right. So thanks for having me, Kitty. Bye.
Thank you, a cutie pie. Okay, you guys, that was a cutie pie. And now it is time for Pets in the News. Now, every week, Cats brings us Pets in the News. Now, believe it or not, Cats also just celebrated a birthday last Friday when she had the marvelous mustache challenge, okay, which I had chest hair as well as a mustache. Let's get Cats in the box so we can hear all about Pets in the News. Hello, Cats.
Hear me?
I can hear you now.
Perfect. Yes, the event was a lot of fun this weekend, and definitely the chest hair was like the chef's kiss as far as the added touch. I really appreciated it. Thank you for the gifts, guys. So happy Monday. I think
Happy
I have
Monday.
some stories that are not so Debbie Downer. Let's talk some interesting stuff. We kind of joke about exotic pets, you know, that you want to get a hamster on the show or a guinea pig. But I always thought, this is going to sound kind of dumb, I always thought that exotic pets were like just reptiles. I didn't realize that in like the veterinary world or whatever, that also includes like bunnies, guinea pigs, hamsters, kind of like most pets outside of your average dog and cat. Do you know what I mean? So, in doing just some research about what, you know, information or stories to share, I found an article about how to choose a good vet if you have an exotic pet.
Oh, interesting.
An ostrich is also an exotic pet.
Yeah,
I've never met an ostrich that I didn't like. Okay.
Yeah, I've never met an ostrich. Okay.
Me either. So, you know, like I said, as I mentioned, it's not just, you know, it could be a snake, it could be a bird, it could be a ferret, but, you know, those pets, just like our cats and dogs, need veterinary care.
Sure.
So, you know, first and foremost, when you're looking for a good vet, you want to say, how many of these kinds of pets have you actually treated?
Good point.
Because truly, in a lot of like your smaller towns or cities, there may only be one vet in town. And likely they could be your only choice, but it's not necessarily your best choice. So you just want to kind of find out, really just by the numbers, how many of, you know, if you're taking your pet parrot to the vet, if they've only ever treated 2, you know, it's a good indication that might not be the best choice for veterinary care.
That makes sense.
Are they set up to even take care of your exotic pet? Do they have the tools, not only the physical tools, but also the staff? And I don't just mean the vet, because you know what, the vet can be really good in treating your animal, but you know, it's those vet techs who really do a lot of behind the scenes, you know, work. So you want to make sure that there are vet techs who are going to be comfortable with treating your exotic pet. Because you know what, if I worked as a vet tech, I'd be down for the cats, the dogs, and the fuzzy animals. I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to hold your snake while they're, you know, pulling something out of its mouth. And that's the kind of thing you definitely want to know ahead of time.
And my anaconda, don't wait, that's not the right song. No.
Okay. And then, you know, last but not least, you know, does the veterinary hospital provide care for pet emergencies? That's another big one, because a lot of times, you know, with cats and dogs, you know, your pet may not have to visit the vet that many times per year, you know, other than routine care. But, you know, if you have an exotic pet, just like our cats and dogs, you might run into an emergency. So you want to make sure, again, are they equipped to be able to provide that sort of immediate care that those types of animals need? So, you know, I have to say, all the years growing up when I had hamsters and guinea pigs, I don't think they ever saw the vet. My parents would be like, sorry. But if that's something that you are looking for, just make sure you kind of do your homework about what services and what their experience is.
Yeah, no, I never thought about asking those questions. And I think that's a valuable, especially because some of these exotic pets are very expensive, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So you get an exotic pet, and then you don't have anyone within your region that actually has experience with exotic pets. Like, make it make sense, right? It makes sense. It's good common sense. But you know what? Honestly, I never thought of that before. And I think that makes a lot of good. That's like a really valuable reminder that if you are thinking about getting that specialty type thing outside of a cat or dog, to really maybe find out beforehand, before you get an exotic pet, that where do they take care of them? How many did they take care of? Good stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. So for the cat lovers, let's talk about cats. Why does my cat lick me?
I don't know why.
I've never, cats licking me would kind of freak me out, I'm going to be honest. The texture of a cat's tongue is somewhat unique, obviously different than a dog or, you know, some other domesticated pets. But there are some cats who really enjoy licking their humans or visiting guests or just really anybody. So the article kind of talked about some of the common reasons that really aren't necessarily a cause for concern. But if your cat is licking you a lot, it might be kind of annoying. So they also kind of gave some tips on kind of how to deter that. It sounds so inappropriate. So some cats lick for social affiliation and affection. And this is a learning experience for me because, to be honest, I don't really have a lot of experience with cats on a personal level. So I guess it's very common, as it is with dogs, that cats will often lick each other in their social groups to strengthen their social bonds. So that was kind of interesting. In that same respect, that may be why they're licking you as their human, because they are still have that same mentality that they're trying to socialize and, of course, bond with you. So it's not a negative thing at all. Additionally, cats may also lick you to alleviate anxiety. They lick themselves to do that. But if they are anxious, they may find comfort in licking you as their companion or their owner or their parent, should I say. And so that is a way for them to alleviate anxiety. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, this makes sense now. Chuck Norris likes to lick me, and he's a licker, yeah.
But it can also be kind of annoying, for some people. I have dogs that I let kiss me. I kiss my dogs, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But there are some people who just aren't into that. They're just not into you. And, they might find it unhygienic or whatever it might be. So if you find that your cat is licking you too much, it might also be you. You might just taste good or taste bad in a funny way, either from like medication that you're taking or food that you're eating that can come through your pores, that if they're licking your arm or your armpit or whatever, your forehead, my dog would like to lick my forehead if I'm sweating. That's gross, but it tastes good to them. So just be aware of that. Not that you can necessarily change it, but maybe wash your hands or whatever it might be. And ultimately, just like any pet training, you can also learn to kind of deter your pet, or should I say, gravitate their attention to something else so they stop doing that to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, have you ever had a pet lick you, like, besides a dog? Cats have a rough tongue. It's very rough.
It's weird. It's not weird, but it's almost like spiny in a sense, their tongue.
Yeah, it's like, anyways, keep going, cats. Is there more?
The last one that I have is that we had talked kind of like on a previous Monday about famous Instagram pets or how to help make your pet famous. But I found an article that was kind of on the opposite side of things, because there is a danger, just like when we share information about ourselves on the internet or social media or our children, that these are kind of dangers that I never thought about, which was kind of interesting to me. So the article is titled "Pause for Concern: Navigating the Cyber Risks of Pet Social Media." And what was kind of interesting are two main things that they talked about.
Fuck?
One, people don't realize that oftentimes we may post pictures of our pet with their collar on that may have a tag that has our name, our phone number, or address. And some really impressive hackers and people who are genius with computers are able to use their superpowers for the bad, and can really, even on a grainy photo or a poor quality photo, they can obtain your personal information, where you live and what your telephone number is. So that's something to think about that I never thought about. And I can think of a few pictures that I definitely posted with my dog's tag chilling. So something to think about. And the other thing was that, and I think we can all probably admit to this, is that many of us use our pet's name in passwords. So whether it's, password for banking or your password for BarkBox, it doesn't matter what it is. yeah, I mean that people, so again, these genius scammers will try to, using specific software, try to hack your accounts that are associated with you that they can figure out, and utilize your pet's name to hopefully break the password and get in. It's not as uncommon as you think. And with the popularity of social media and pets, and really people love, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, one person in the middle of nowhere with just, 10 followers on your Facebook, or somebody who has 50,000 followers, we could all be targets. So it doesn't really, my cat has power of attorney. That was funny. But it's just important to think about that sharing your pet's information is ultimately sharing your information. And you don't want to give up your location, your phone number, or possibly a password. So I also encourage you that if you have your pet's name in your passwords, it's a good time to change them now.
I like that. That's good. That's valuable. Yes. Yeah, never allow a cat outside again. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Just, well, cats, I think those are really important things to remember. Like, we don't want to use our pets as part of our passwords. And if you do, in fact, have your collar on your pet because maybe they're an inside outside pet, or even just inside, you may want to consider or think twice before you take pictures with their collar on, because it could get linked back to your specific where you live, and ultimately could pose a safety risk for yourself and your family, and maybe somebody even try to snatch your pet, right? All of those things are possible. Kat, tell us when you're streaming and when people can find you.
Sure, absolutely. So for the most part, I try to stream Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. I'm going to try to do better about getting on a little earlier, but we'll say from like 10:30 on. I'm usually online. I don't have any events, thank you, that I'm hosting anytime soon, but I am part of Data Shish's All Pisces auction, which is on March 19th. So pretty cool. Check that out. And then I'm also part of Bluey's superhero auction in April. So 2 events that I'm definitely looking forward to.
All right, March 19th, Data Shish's Pisces auction, and April, we'll get there.
I don't know the date, I'm sorry.
Like, April's too far for Kitty. We'll stick with just the March.
Yes, March 19th, for sure. All Pisces
March
auction
19th.
will be fun.
You guys, so that's, and please make sure you please click on Kat's, hit her with a favorite. And if you didn't get a chance to tell her happy birthday last Friday night, please make sure you click on her and go see her in her stream and tell her happy birthday, everybody.
Thank you. And before I forget, Mondo, on May 9th, I'm in the Mondo Squad auction on May 9th. So I have auctions in March, April, and May. I'm fairly a newbie to auctions, so even just to post a lion and an emoji in the chat, it's just great to feel the support. So I appreciate everybody.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100,000%. Always, yay. All right. Thank you, Kat.
Guys, I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.
Listen, it was a great show. That was, obviously Kat's rawr and a cutie pie. We learned a little bit more about pets in America through the information about pet adoption, how many pets there are, how many pets are euthanized, about how many pets are returned to their owners when they're lost. We heard a story about a lost pet, and a story about the importance of microchipping your pet. We've heard a lot of information too with cats, telling us about the importance of thinking about exotic pet vets. And we've heard some amazing information too about cybersecurity, with thinking about making sure your passwords do not contain your pet's names in them. Like, all very good show. Thank you so much to my special guests. a cutie pie. Thank you so much to Cats Roar for Pets in the News. Please make sure you're favoriting all of these amazing gifters up here. Thank you to Storm, who took my point for tonight. And also just make sure you, like, you know, if you have a pet, if you have any kind of pet at all, I'm very excited. I'd love to have you come and be a special guest here on my platform. If you follow my Instagram, which is, I believe, linked in my bio, you can get over to my Instagram, hit me with a follow, and then just hit me with a message that specifically says, Kitty, I'd love to come be on your show with my pet. And it could be your cat, Foxy, or it could be any other animal that you have. It doesn't specifically have to be a cat. My name is Kitty Commander, obviously. I have a special place for cats in my heart and in my life. But I do love all pets, and I have owned ferrets. I've owned dogs as well. So, you know, and goldfish. I had a goldfish